Coach, you talked about Cameron Fountain being one of the more improved players. What have you seen from him so far in camp that's backed up his improvement?
Just inconsistency. You know, he picked up right where he left off at the end of spring, and he's starting to emerge as more of a vocal guy out there too, so he's taking that next step on and off the field.
How about Kennedy Erlacer? He's a name we keep hearing. What is he doing to impress you?
He's picked up the defense fast. Like, you know, for a guy that wasn't here all spring, he gets here. There's some stuff that we do that's a little carryover, but then there's a lot that's completely new. But he's a football guy. He's done a great job just picking everything up, and you see him just communicating more and more each day out there.
How would you describe his skill set, maybe just in general?
You know, he's very twitchy. You know, he loves to hit. He's very instinctive in zone. He has some position flex, so he can do some things in the box. He can blitz. You know, so we've been trying to just utilize him the best we can.
I know he and his dad are two different people, but have you had much communication with Brian, or what's it like dealing with him as a parent? You
know, I have not. When we were going through the process in the portal, I had a conversation with him on the phone. But since he's been here, I have not had any interaction with him. But KU's just been locked in.
How has this group been 13 practices in? It's your third year. Do you think that this group is more advanced than other defenses you've had 13 practices in?
You know, I think just having guys who was here this past spring, we're probably a little bit more ahead. Yeah, I think last year we were probably at the same point from a coverage standpoint, but I just think what we're doing with our D-line and backers, just having all those guys that were here this past year, it's just really sped up the process.
Lincoln talked about linebacker depth and something he was interested to see how it plays out. How have you seen that this fall, and what guys are sort of hitting that level of trust that you need to see them to play?
It's been super, super competitive, and depth in that room is going to be important just because there's no one that is starting entire year. You know, you have EG who's been a starter. Outside of that, no one's started a game, but there's a lot of talent in the room. So the depth in that room is going to be important, but guys like Jaden and Tamir and Tone, like just seeing those guys just be more consistent, that just gives us more faith in them for when they're in the game. Same thing with Newbie.
Who's separating in the cornerback competition? Last time we spoke with you, you mentioned how you were looking for someone to break free from the group. Is anyone doing that?
You know, it's gotten more competitive just with Chase and banged up with Prophet and not out here. It's meant more reps for everybody else, and it's still super competitive.
In terms of that nickel spot, kind of building off of that, I know Prophet, you know, had played a lot there. Anyone in particular, you know, kind of stand above that group at the moment? Or
you know, before Prophet's injury, we had like 5 or 6 guys we were working in the slot, so we're still working the same guys in the slot. Like, you know, most of the safeties have the ability to play in the slot, and then you know, the only guy that's been new that we've been trying to get working there has been DJ.
How tough is a freshman stepping in at a corner spot? It seems like that's certainly one of the harder positions to pick up in your first year.
It is tough. You know, I went through that my freshman year. Like, it's the speed of the game is completely different. You know, you're playing against a dude every single week. The quarterbacks are better. The ball comes out on time. I would say, you know, that and defensive line are the two toughest positions to adjust going from high school to college.
It seems pretty unique that a guy like Alex Graham can, you said he was playing multiple positions.
Yeah.
Right? Is that pretty rare, at least in your experience?
It is. I would say just you know, he's done a great job getting better each day, but the thing that's been most impressive is just mentally. You know, he's a high football IQ guy. He's not just interested in knowing what he does, he wants to know what's going on around him. He's very similar to Kamari in that sense. He's just young.
It seems like Devin Tompkins has established himself in the middle of the defensive line. Who else is pushing to establish themselves there?
You know, it's nice for us to have Keyshawn here. You know, we didn't have him in spring, and seeing him out there, every snap he's out there, you feel him.
Lincoln mentioned Des and EG as like the 1 and 2 linebackers right now. So what have they done in this fall particularly to kind of separate themselves?
Versatility. You know, they both are great tacklers. They can blitz. You can make an argument that they cover tight ends better than our DBs, and just some of the things that we can do with them in space from an athletic standpoint kind of separate them.
Because they just have like natural athletic ability or instinct, or like, how do you explain that?
Yeah, you know, Dez was a safety in high school. So last year was his first year playing inside backer. So you know, now that he's been playing inside backer for a year, you see all the safety background stuff work in his advantage when he's in coverage. And then you have a guy like EG, he can do just about anything. You know, we can align him on the edge, we can line him off the ball. There's times we have one-on-ones, we put him on tight ends, and he's our best guy on tight ends. So it's just hard to take both those guys off the field.
Do you like Tamir better at Mike or Will?
You know, he's been taking reps at both, same thing as Jaden. We want both of them to know just inside backer because, yeah, at the end of the day, we want the third best inside backer in the game.
Jakeem is obviously very young for his age. Where is his IQ, or where does his IQ rank maybe among guys that you've had come in that young?
I mean,
freshmen just in general.
You could put him in the same boat with Alex. You know, just how fast they've picked everything up. And the biggest thing with them is like they don't make the same mistakes twice. They're going to make mistakes out here every day, but they're not making the same mistake over and over again. Once they make the mistake, we correct it, they come out here, and it shows up the next day on film, which is super impressive.